Today I'm going to talk to you about Zootopia, things you may not have seen or may have seen. So spoilers ahead, this movie has been out for a while and now is also on DVD, so you had plenty of time to prepare. So when I was taking classes on public speaking, they said the first thing to not do is start your talk with a graph. And this is a graph of procrastination, so as you can see, it's not done. There's going to be a lot of this coming at you guys, so you might want to pay attention. So let's try something different, and let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for the things that you have given to us. Please guide us on this Sabbath day, and please guide my thoughts and my words. In Jesus' name pray, amen. All right, so in keeping with the theme of praise music that's not necessarily viewed as praise music, here's a quote from a song. "What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's too little of." You guys recognize that? It goes on further to go, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. These lyrics were composed by, or written by Hal David, and the music was composed by Burt Bacharach. And the most famous version of this song you might know is from Jackie DeShawn or Dionne Warwick. And to me that is God speaking to us in popular music. Most of you would not have think of that, or maybe you did. I hope you did. So let's delve into the Bible, and then we'll go into Zootopia as a film, and then we will continue on with I will tell you a story, and then I will throw some science at you. All right, so the text that I chose was Ephesians 6:12. It's a little small, but I will read it to you. "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." What does that mean? To me, it says we're not fighting against a supervillain. We're not fighting against a mad scientist. We're fighting against ourselves, against our neighbors, against our fellow human beings. And it's kind of apparent with Zootopia upon several watchings of this movie. I'll sum it up a little bit for you in that our main character is a bunny called Judy Hopps, and she wants to be a police officer in a profession that is normally occupied by animals that are predators. And in the world of Zootopia, animals are humans, and they do the things we do, and they learn to coexist in the city of Zootopia. And if you break down the soundings of the word Zootopia, it's an allegory for utopia. But when we actually get to Zootopia through Judy's travels, we find out that things are not necessarily as pristine and shiny as they would seem from where she lived. And our other main character, or our supporting character in this movie, is Nick the Fox, and he is a hustler. He is somebody that the police would like to apprehend and cease and desist, whatever it is that he's doing. So on the outset, Zootopia is about a police officer getting the bad guy, because there's a kind of detective mystery crime genre story woven into this thing, where Judy has to figure out what is causing the predators of Zootopia to behave savage. That means that they're behaving back to their base natures of just attacking everybody. But that's one aspect. The other aspect is that this is an allegory for dealing with prejudice. You have a bunny working together with a fox, overcoming species prejudice, where they don't get along with each other. They don't mingle with each other. And so Zootopia is, it's not just like a juvenile, cutesy Noah's Ark. It's something that instead we allow the filmmakers to explore aspects of human psychology, and without remaining tethered to any very particular thing. And I think if you, the people of you that have seen this movie, you probably relate to one character or another at some point during the course of this this story. Another thing that I got from this is that you have the mayor of Zootopia, who is Leodore Lionheart, and you have his assistant mayor, Bellwether, who is a lamb. So to me, that already speaks out biblical, because the lion and the lamb are together working, like they say in the Bible. This is also, the film is also not typical of, like let's say a fairy tale or a nursery rhyme or something that is labeled, labeling this as a kid's piece of entertainment. Because in the typical kid's story, you have the bigger, ferocious animals as the bad guys. And spoiler alert, it's the opposite in this movie. Where the good, like kind of meek assistant mayor Bellwether turns out to be the bad guy in the end, orchestrating this whole thing of chemistry and plotting to turn predators savage because of the oppression that she's felt. Where did she learn all of this? Where did Judy learn how? Or let me put it to you this way: why did Judy want to become something that society has told her she is not allowed to become? It's something we learn. I would also submit to you that the world is broken, and it's illustrated well in this clip. We're going to go out of order because I'm assuming everybody here has seen the movie. So here's a clip from, like in the middle point of the movie.
And foxes are the worst.
Yeah, actually, your father does have a point there. It's in their biology. Remember what happened with Gideon Gray?
When I was 9, Gideon Gray was a jerk who happened to be a fox. I know plenty of bunnies who are jerks.
Sure, yeah, we all do, absolutely. But just in case, we made you a little care package to take with you.
And I put some snacks in there.
This is fox deterrent.
Yeah, that's safe to have that.
This is fox repellent.
Okay, the deterrent and the repellent, that's all she needs.
Check this out.
Oh, for goodness sake. She has no need for a fox taser, Stu.
Oh, come on, when is there not a need for a fox taser?
Okay, look, I will take this to make you stop talking.
Terrific, everyone wins.
Zootopia Express.
That's okay, that's not the clip I wanted, but it's still good. It shows to you how Judy's parents have this prejudice within her, or within them, and they're projecting it onto her. If you've seen the movie, or you have seen the movie, Gideon Gray is a childhood bully, and he bullies the other prey species, and Judy stands up to him, and he gives her, he scars her by scratching her. And so Judy's prejudice toward a particular species is already both physical and mental. And then the further of the anti-fox prejudice, she even carries the fox repellent that her parents give her. And then she uses it, or she has it handy later when interacting with Nick. So somebody from the same animal species, which is Gideon Gray, which is a negative example of how foxes are, and then she encounters Nick, who breaks that stereotype, and then her parents continue to carry that, and it goes to show you that discrimination knows no age, and also that we have to interact with the individual rather than the mass. Both Judy and Nick the fox, experience childhood trauma. Nick experiences that through a kind of a Boy Scout troop, where he's the only predator species in that troop, and all the other prey put a muzzle on him And that's how he becomes jaded to the world at large. And it goes to show you that this is another reversal of roles where the meeker prey are now the bad guys oppressing a predator. Let's show another clip, I guess. Here's the broken clip.
Hauser? What are you doing?
They thought it would be better if a predator such as myself wasn't the first face that you see when you walk into the ZPD.
What?
They're gonna move me to records. It's downstairs. It's by the boiler.
Hobbs!
I don't understand.
Well, our city is 90% prey, Judy, and right now they're just really scared. You're a hero to them. They trust you. And so that's why Chief Bogo and I want you to be the public face of the ZPD.
I'm not a hero. I came here to make the world a better place, but I think I broke it.
Don't give yourself so much credit, Hobbs. The world has always been broken. That's why we need good cops. Like you.
With all due respect, sir, a good cop is supposed to serve and protect, help the city, not tear it apart. I don't deserve this badge.
Hobbs.
Judy, you've worked so hard to get here. It's what you wanted since you were a kid. You can't quit.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So that was the clip I was talking about earlier. It's in the midway point of the movie that Judy Hopps has her lowest of lows, and it allows her to go into the third act, trying to redeem herself and redeem us as an audience and as a viewer. I chose that clip because I wasn't originally going to do Zootopia for the Apocalypse series because it's kind of easy. But in light of recent events, I thought to myself, how could I not do Zootopia? There's just, the world is truly broken from what the news has been reporting to us in the past few weeks. And what she says here is that she wanted to make it better. I hope that we all want to make it better. And, you know, you may see somebody and then project that affiliation with that somebody to a larger group. That's not how it's supposed to go, because in the Old Testament we're taught to love our neighbor, and then in the New Testament it sort of flips, and we're supposed to love our enemy. But what happens here is that Judy fears that she is not capable of fulfilling the things that she would like to do in order to make the world a better place. And this kind of goes in line with the Assistant Mayor Bellwether's plan, and that fear always works. It's a sad truth of the state that the world is in today, but fear does always work. In our post-9/11 world, there's many Muslim and Middle Eastern Americans that have been similarly ostracized and profiled based on prejudice. It's always an us versus them mentality. It's always they're the outsiders, we're the insiders. And then going on with the recent shootings and just general bad stuff in the world, it's always us versus them. And that's sort of a nuanced view of how and what attitudes are projected in the state of the world. And the point of Zootopia is not to guilt us, the viewer, into being tolerant. It's that we should be conscious of these subconscious things that we cling to incorrectly. And notions of culture, race, religion, gender preference, these are all things that are almost antiquated, I would say. Just the way that Nick and Judy interact with one another. Nick initially believes that a bunny cannot become a cop. Just the way Judy believes that a fox cannot help her out in solving the case. So, how does Judy overcome these notions and these stipulations put upon her? She tries. She goes to the academy. She finds ways around her physical limitations in order to keep up with all the predators, the larger animals going through the academy with her, and she ultimately succeeds. So in trying something that is out of the norm, Judy is able to break free of the stereotypes and the prejudices placed upon her. And that way, she now ripples throughout her small circle, or her bigger circle, a change. Change is both communal and individual. They go in tandem with each other. On the surface, Zootopia as a city, it seems that all a bunch of these different species of animals are living together in one big community. They have to coexist, predator and prey, but in order to prosper. But looking deeper, the movie reflects the world in general. But this specifically also reflects the United States, in that we have different races living together, cultures, religious beliefs, and we're all in it together as neighbors. Here's an example of Judy's world changing.
Right on time.
Is that Gideon Gray?
Yep, it sure is. We work with him now.
He's our partner, and we never would have considered it had you not opened our minds.
That's right. I mean, Gid's turned into one of the top pastry chefs in the Tri-Boroughs.
That's really cool, you guys. Gideon Gray. I'll be darned.
Hey, Judy, I'd just like to say I'm sorry for the way I behaved in my youth. I had a lot of self-doubt, and it manifested itself in the form of unchecked rage and aggression. I was a major jerk.
Oh, I know a thing or two about being a jerk.
So in that clip, not only does Judy's view of foxes, and specifically the individual Gideon Gray the fox, change, but also her parents change, from going and giving her all this fox deterrent as she goes into the big city, to now working hand in hand with a fox. I have a little story. A friend of mine was a younger sibling in a group of, or a family unit, and her older and younger brother told her that horses were cows and that cows were horses. And this was instilled from her very young, even so much so that when she went to school, in elementary school, she argued it to the teacher at the point of being called home. So we, like that little girl, my friend, grab onto things that we're taught for no other reason than that's just how they are. We need to be more aware, be more loving, in order to try and zoom out of our narrow-mindedness and to see the world at large in the bigger picture and in the grand scheme of things. Yes, prejudice is unfair, but we can fight it. And people can change. Not only in movies, but people that can change. The characters in Zootopia don't just discriminate, they're like real people. They also want to fight a way to overcome it. And the movie shows that, yes, these characters are flawed in the ways that they're thinking and their mindset. And then Judy becomes friends with Nick, but not because it's just that's a fairy tale and they're automatically friends. They have to work hard at their friendship. They have to go through the conflict in order to continue working together, and through that, they become friends. And conflict is a way, scientifically proven, that people are drawn closer. When 9/11 happened, the United States as a nation did become closer. It's sad to say, but we did. In Zootopia, Judy and Nick become allies. They do hurt each other and they make mistakes, and they also forgive and decide to work together to overcome these bites. They become cooperative with and for each other. And by connecting across our differences, we can make the world a better place. This is what the bunny and the fox have taught us in this movie. But how do we change? How do we even try to change? Well, let me tell you a story. When I was 7 years old and my brother was just 5 years old, we were playing on top of a bunk bed. I was 2 years older than my brother at the time. I mean, I'm 2 years older than him now and still am. At the time, we were playing what we wanted to. It's what we wanted to do, and me being older, I wanted to dictate what we would be playing. So I was playing G.I. Joe. I had mine set up on one side of the bunk bed, and he had his set up on the other side. And there are differing accounts of what happened after that point in the story. But since my brother's not here with us today, meaning he's not dead, he's just not physically here, let me tell you what really happened. My brother's a little clumsy, so somehow without any help from me or push, he disappeared off the top of the bunk bed. And he landed with a crash on the floor. I cautiously peeked over and I saw that he had landed on all fours, kind of like a cat, but not as gracefully. And I was nervous now because my parents had charged me, being the older brother, to make sure that we had played nicely and politely and as quietly as possible because they were in the middle of a nap, which is what most Seventh-day Adventists do on a Saturday. But now what happened is that he had broken his arm when he fell. I was also thinking of the week before the week before he broke his arm because I had pushed him out of the way of an imaginary sniper bullet. So now when he fell, I was worried that more of my parents' wrath would come upon me. And I didn't want any of that to happen to me. So I could see my brother's face as he was on the ground, this sense of pain and wail and suffering was just about to come from his mouth. So I did the only thing that my frantic 7-year-old mind could do to avert this tragedy, meaning the tragedy that's about to happen to me. I said, "Wait, don't cry. Did you see how you landed? No human lands like that. I think it means you're a superhero." Now that was cheating, I will admit, because there was nothing more than what my little brother wanted to be was to be a superhero at that time, rather than a hurt 5-year-old. And I could see on his face the conflict of what he was processing. His body is telling him one thing, and I'm telling him another, and his brain doesn't know what to do. The latter one, and he was a superhero. Instead of crying and ceasing to play, instead of waking my parents, he got up on the bunk bed with all the grace of a baby superhero, but with one broken leg. But what had happened that day is that we had stumbled upon positive psychology. And by we, I mean me, because I saw it in practice. When I started earlier, I showed you a graph of procrastination. Here's a graph that shows something. This graph may look boring and you may see a trend, but it's a good graph because it's fake data. This is a graph of showing you that there is one red dot that is an outlier, that is a weirdo. I know there's one of you here. I saw you come in late. So that's what you are up there. But that's not a problem, because in science, we can just delete that dot, because it's messing up our data. But that's not what we do here at Hollywood. One of the first things we teach people in economics, statistics, business, and psychology courses is how, in a statistically valid way, do we eliminate the weirdos, the outliers? How do we eliminate these people and find the best fit? Which is great if we're looking to see how many Advil the average person should be taking. That's 2. But if we're looking at this graph and applying it to life, we can't just delete that person. So what do we do instead? What I'm interested more is in potential and happiness, and how energy and creativity are cultivated. If I ask you the question, how fast can the child learn to read in a classroom, scientists change the answer to, how fast does the average child learn to read in that classroom? So now we're tailoring the class towards the average. But then if you fall below the average, psychologists get thrilled, because that means you're depressed or you have a disorder, or hopefully both. We're hoping for both because the business model is, if you come in for a therapy session with 1 problem, we hope you walk away with 10, because that guarantees stability, business. And so you keep coming back. They'll even go back into your childhood if necessary, but eventually they want you to become normal again. But normal in this case is merely being average. Positive psychology submits that if we study what is merely average, we will remain merely average. Another movie that comes to mind is Big Fish. You're going to be as big as a fish as you are if you're in your bowl. You need to get into a bigger bowl to become a bigger fish. Then instead of deleting these positive outliers, we need to embrace them. The reason this graph is important is because on the news, the majority of the information we've received is not positive. In fact, it's negative. Most of it's about murder, corruption, disease, natural disasters, and very quickly our brains start to think, that's the accurate ratio of negative to positive in the world. This creates the medical school syndrome. And if you haven't heard of this, I'll illustrate with another story. During the first year, my friend went to medical school, and during his first year, he started reading through all the lists of things that he had to study. And through all these lists were symptoms of diseases, and suddenly he realized that he had them all. So this friend went to Yale Medical School, and after reading and studying, he called me and he said, I have leprosy. I had to take that in, and I said, even at Yale, that's pretty extraordinary. But I had no idea how to console my friend because the week prior, he thought he had menopause. So this graph is showing that for every negative thing, there's like this one little bit of positive. That's what I see when I watch the news. So we're not necessarily finding that reality shapes us, but the lens which our brain views the world of our reality. And if we can change the lens, not only can we change our happiness, but we can change every single kind of framework or business model that we applied upon ourselves. A study shows that 75% of job successes are predicted by your optimism levels. Not your resume, not your experience, not your skills, but your optimism levels. Your social support and your ability to see stress as a challenge instead of a threat is a very big factor in this. We need to reverse this formula, just like Jesus did, for happiness and success. He said to love your enemy. He said to, when they were expecting an army, he came in on a donkey. He's always reversing the social norms of what we believe. And we need to do that in order to be happier and in order to overcome prejudice and stereotypes. The formula as it is right now in this world is, if I work harder, I will be more successful. And if I'm more successful, then I will be happier. This undergirds most of our parenting and managing styles, the way that we motivate our behavior. And the problem with this is that it's scientifically broken and backwards for two reasons. Every time your brain has a success, you have just changed the goalpost of what success looks like. You got good grades, now you have to get better grades. You got into a good school, and after, you have to get into a better one. You got a good job, now you have to get a better job or get promoted. And now you, every time, like in the business world, you hit your sales target, you just change the sales target, you just upped it some more. And if happiness is on the opposite side of success, our brain never truly gets there. We've pushed happiness beyond the cognitive horizon as a society. And that's because we think we have to be successful, then we'll be happier. But our brains work in the opposite order, or we're taught that way. Someone has to fail in order for us to succeed. But I say, we can succeed together, communally. If you raise somebody's positivity levels in the present, then their brain experiences what we now call a happiness advantage, which is your brain at positive performs significantly better than at negative, neutral, or stressed. Your intelligence rises, and your brain is 31% more productive than your brain at negative, neutral, or stress. I bet you guys never thought of that. And that's one way that I see Judy overcoming all the obstacles in her life and in society, because she always tackles it with a positive attitude. And scientifically, when this happens, when we become more happier, our brain floods and our system floods with dopamine. And this has dopamine has two functions in the brain. Not only does it make you happier, it turns on all the learning centers in your brain, allowing you to adopt the world in a different way. So in order to change and to try to change, we need to be happier. I challenge all of us to try and train our brain to become more positive. You can start this by doing a 2-minute exercise done for 21 days, because it's been statistically proven that 21 days is the length in which it takes to form a habit. You can rewire your brain, allowing your brain to actually be more optimistic and thereby more successful. Here's the thing. Journal about one positive experience you've had within the past 24 hours. This allows your brain to relive it. Because how many times does somebody cut us off on the freeway and we have to tell somebody that this jerk cut us off? We're focusing on the negative rather than waving somebody through traffic, allowing them to merge with us, and then telling somebody else, hey, you know what? I let somebody merge. I let somebody make this weird left turn that they're not supposed to make. That allows us to dwell on the positive rather than the negative. And we also find that meditation allows the brain to get over the cultural ADHD that we've been creating by trying to do multiple tasks at once. Let's focus on doing one good thing for somebody else, because random acts of kindness are actually conscious acts of kindness, whether you believe that or not. When we get, you can also do another thing is to send a positive email to somebody, because email is something that all of us probably open the first thing we wake up, or we open and see our text. We see a communication from somebody else that's not us. By sending somebody a positive message during the course of the week, you're also allowing these dopamine levels to rise within your body. I will close with a clip that I think Judy Hopps sums it up beautifully in the end of the movie.
When I was a kid, I thought Zootopia was this perfect place where everyone got along and anyone could be anything. Turns out, Real life's a little bit more complicated than a slogan on a bumper sticker. Real life is messy. We all have limitations. We all make mistakes, which means, hey, glass half full, we all have a lot in common. And the more we try to understand one another, the more exceptional each of us will be. But we have to try. So no matter what type of animal you are, from the biggest elephant to our first fox, I implore you, try. Try to make the world a better place. Look inside yourself and recognize that change starts with you. It starts with me. It starts with all of us.
Try. By doing these activities that I just mentioned, and by training our brain, we can train our bodies. We found that we can reverse the formula of happiness, because it's not just, I'm going to run a marathon by never ever training. You can't just change your mind by not even taking small steps. So these two things are the small steps that we can take to try and change our mind, and thereby reversing the formula of happiness and success. In doing so, we can not only create waves of positivity, but we can try for a real revolution. Change starts from within. And won't you try with me this week? Thank you.